Hi, my name is Amrit. We've heard that IIT Madras is the best place to build. So we've come down to the Divanshu Innovation Hub. We want to meet some people. These are builders. We want to talk to them about their work and also ask them what makes IIT Madras the best place to build.
Yes.
A lot of people at IIT Madras really look up to you, right?
I hope so. The moment sometimes you bring a technology, other question somebody will ask, oh, are you going to take their job away? What we are doing, you actually have to go on the road and see the life of a Safai Karamchari or a manual scavenger.
Okay, welcome to Center for Innovation. We are here today talking to Divanshu. Divanshu, hi.
Hi, Amritas. Good to meet you.
Yeah.
And multiple times now.
Yeah,
So,
eight years we know each other.
When we first met, I don't think any of us had an idea of the journey that we would like make.
Correct, yeah.
It's been very good.
My first reflection of you was, wow, such an enthusiastic kid. Yeah. But matlab tu to top nikla. Like, just you have done so much in the last 8 years.
Thank you.
Just for those who are not exposed to your work, can you just summarize very crisply what you do?
So, I'm Divanshu. I run a tech startup called Solinas Integrity. We work on developing robotics and software solutions for urban management, asset management. So we work for water pipelines, sewerage network, drainage, manholes, separate tanks. We're working on the problems of water leakages, contamination, elimination of manual scavenging, and so on. I also founded an education company which works with about 6.5 lakh students today across 5 states. I founded that when I completed my second year in college. So that was my first startup. And apart from that, I also work with various startups to guide them on early stage 0 to 1 go-to-market and so on.
So you run a startup in sewage and wastewater management,
Yes.
and you co-run a startup in education, and you are sort of like a mentor in your startup in the wastewater management space. What does it do?
Just a bit of context is that it was my final year project. That's how we got started. I did not have any exposure to water and wastewater management. And of course, given the system that we work with government, it was not possible for a young sort of graduate to have this thing. But I essentially started working on this problem statement on cleaning septic tanks through robotics. That was my problem statement in final year. And from there, when it kind of came to a prototype, we realized that, okay, there's something that we must take to market rather than just take it as a college project. So that was my first introduction into the sector. And then we realized that the sector itself, like water and sewerage, has not grown as other sectors because of multiple reasons, right? So technology infusion has been a challenge because of policies, private sector investment, or so on.
I feel like septic tank cleaning is a problem that I have heard from when I was in school. Manual scavenging happens and so on. And at some point, the government said, let's not do manual scavenging and all of that. And why has it taken so long for innovation to come into that sector?
I think it's a complex problem that way. So I'll break it down, right? One is technology. Like we did not for a long time had the right technologies to do it. And the reason for that is not enough investment or excitement. Like if you look for the technology, kaun leke aayega, right? An engineer would bring it. But most of the engineers are most excited about the latest trends like EVs, climate, and whatnot, rather than thinking about water and sewerage. Dikhta hi nahi hai na. Matlab, how would you get exposure to that, right? So that is a challenge. Other thing also is where would you implement? Let's say you develop a technology, and where would you implement that? You don't have testing grounds. So that is a technology challenge on that. Then there is a socio-economic lens of this, like people who do that. There are certain set of people who still believe that these caste people are supposed to be doing that cleaning. So the social barriers are very high for you to implement that. The moment sometimes you bring a technology, other question somebody will ask, oh, are you going to take their job away? And people don't think that you can actually rehabilitate them and so that they don't have to do this job. So in that way, it has been there, right?
So your first part was that engineering students who have done a lot of engineering find it more attractive to do the more sexy kind of
Correct, of
EV,
course, of
climate
course.
change
Yes. Yeah.
kind of work.
I mean, you look at it, right? You just take a data of how many startups
you
in the
said-
water sanitation and come up.
First of all, you said EV and climate change, and I'm thinking that engineering students who graduate from IIT these days,
They don't even go to that.
they don't even go to that. They go to
Correct.
banking or finance. or
That is another like thing. Right?
algorithmic trading.
Yeah. So first priority for them would be like consulting, VC, finance,
Yeah.
and that one. And then even if they decide to be in engineering, like my assumption was that given that they're interested in engineering, that also they would like to do something which is comfortable, I would say. They don't have to go out in the sun. Like what we are doing, you actually have to go on the road and see the life of a safai karamchari or a manual scavenger.
Correct.
Right? That is difficult piece, right? Like I there have been multiple times when the testing of our robots were happening, sort of I have stood over the manhole or a septic tank trying to fix things with like sometimes without a mask also because I was not conscious about what am I doing, right? And like सीवर वगैरह लग जाता था हाथ में, but ठीक है वो चल रहा है मतलब because you are engrossed in that. When I was final year student, I would not have imagined myself doing that. But when I got into that, I realized कि कम water में उसको करना है फिर. So then it was also a जिद कि इसको हम खुद से तो solve करेंगे. But before that, people would not think about it.
Correct.
So the exposure is very limited to this sector.
Yeah.
आप like how many 22-year-olds would know that there is a problem of manual scavenging? Like they would have heard it somewhere, like ऐसे, but heard enough to care about it.
Yeah.
वो नहीं है.
हम लोग छिपा के रखते हैं.
हाँ.
मतलब सबको मालूम है, civics में पढ़ा है हमने.
Correct. So that is where your exposure ends. You don't think that you can do something about it.
How did you get exposed to this problem?
All credits to Professor Prabhu. I think so. I, as a person, I am very inclined towards social impact, and I do not have I have not been able to figure out a reason for that. It could be parental upbringing. My parents are very socially conscious that way, so it could be primarily that. So even my first startup was in the social enterprise segment. ये वाला हुआ तो when I was in final year, I went to Professor Prabhu and I said that I want something which is impactful. I am not very excited about abstract projects. So अगर कुछ product वैसा बनाएंगे that can have an application of society, that would be good. And then he immediately said कि see there is one problem. I do not know if you will be interested in taking, but I've been trying to get a couple of people for the last 3 years. There were a bunch of kids who took it last year, but to stage तक पहुंचा, but it was not still like sort of implementable. So we want to take it up, well and good. I said ठीक है, मतलब क्या है? Then he told me about कि there is a robot for septic tank cleaning. Now the thing was, even then, like if I remember my first 3 months of the project, that gives me a relation of why solutions have not come up very well. Because when I took on the project, I was conscious that I have to make an impact. Even then, I wanted to just do it as a college project, right? So क्या हुआ? I had Involve running in the backend. Involve is my education company.
We'll come to that later.
Yes.
But can you just tell me when you are saying you got involved and a few years students hadn't solved it, Professor Prabhu was curious to solve it. What is the engineering challenge in creating a septic tank cleaning robot?
Correct.
Why is it difficult?
Correct. I'll tell you. So first of all, the challenge was that we didn't even know the difference between a septic tank and a sewer line. Most of the people would not know the difference.
So just to clarify, a septic tank is in a house or a building which is not connected to a sewer line.
To central system, yes.
This-
It's a standalone tank where all the fecal sludge goes, right? And then it gets managed.
Fecal sludge.
Fecal
Okay.
sludge. It's a fecal sludge. Yeah.
Fecal sludge goes, it stays, and then somebody has to come, bring a tank and pull it out.
Pull it out. Yes. So it doesn't get seeped away, right? And it generally takes about 3 to 3.5 years to sort of get filled.
Yeah.
उसमें भी बहुत सारी engineering मतलब ये people know that they don't want to clean every 3 years, so they will dig it more than what is recommended, and then it will end up connecting with the water pipeline systems, so it will contaminate the groundwater. So all of that, I will not get into those details. But the thing is that is the standalone system. Sewer line is a centrally connected sewer network where you discharge the sewer, it goes through a network of pipelines to a centralized facility, right?
Right.
The density and the viscosity of these systems are very different because one is a standalone like static system, other is a flowing system, right? वही पता नहीं था.
Okay.
So I remember like when my seniors had done this from where I had to start, the problem statement was to do it for a septic tank, but they actually had created a solution for sewer lines.
Okay.
And I was just trying to build on that because I also did not do enough ground research to understand the difference. ठीक है.
But you were in third year, so
Yeah, fourth year, हाँ. तो हुआ क्या कि first 3 months में I did something as an add-on and felt मेरा project complete हो गया. And actually I had enough to show to a jury कि हो गया. I could go and chill. Very chance encounter that there was a meeting with the manual scavengers themselves. And we had gone there to present about the thing. Right? You can look at the thing, Sepoy was the name of the robot. Okay? And then we presented, this is what we're doing. We had gotten the system also. It is this big system. And I can't understand Tamil, right? So somebody else had presented. And then I could see like people laughing there. मेरे को बुरा लगा, मतलब ये हंस क्यों रहा है? तो I asked क्या वो पूछो उनको. And then he asked, and then they were like, have you even seen a septic tank? Like what you're creating is a toy. Right? So, and they asked this question and I was like, पहले तो I was furious. Ego हट हुआ थोड़ा. IIT मतलब ऐसे अपने को ऐसे बोल रहे हैं ये लोग. But then I actually realized that the question that they're asking is true. In the last 3 months that I was working on a statement, I never bothered to actually go on the ground and see a septic tank.
That is interesting. Now you are in almost like a jury of the actual customers, right?
Correct. And I think this is the gap. Like for most of the problem statement that engineers end up solving, there is an exposure and that understanding is there. Some of these things we don't have exposure of. Like a lot of times when I go people and ask where does the water come from, the most general answer is कि RO से आता है. फिर RO तो filter कर रहा है, पानी उस RO में कहाँ से आ रहा है? Paani is coming through the pipelines. That is through a WTP. That is connected to a source. That backend we have not been positioned to think about.
Right. So now you have figured out that this is very high viscosity. You will have to change the way you are approaching the problem.
So you asked the question about what is the technical difficulty. Let me just like break that down. So the technical difficulty of solving for a septic tank cleaning robot is one, it is small opening and the interior is very big. It's the size of like let's say 300 to 400 mm diameter, but the opening is very big. Like interior could be 1.5 to 2 meters in width, 3 meters in length, 2 to 3 meters in depth, and like that, right? So you need something that can go into smaller opening, expand enough.
It's like this, right?
Yeah. So you actually sort of, let's say you make it like a rectangle. The standard design of a septic tank should be like this. This is what a standard septic tank should look like, right? So all in all, in a standard design itself, the complication is there that you need to get something in and it should be in such a way that it churns the thing there. The other difficulty major, which is why the manual scavenging happens, is most solutions with the suction machines that are available, they suck out the watery part of a tank. What happens is, let's say if you have been storing fecal sludge for like 3 years, 4 years, the density, the hard density part of it will essentially get accumulated at the bottom. And the watery part will come out and then the effluent will be there on the top. More and more pressure, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, the bottom part will become solidified, very hard. That cannot get sucked out through a normal suction pump. You need scraping for that. And that's the reason why people go in.
Okay.
So that is the part, right? So you have to develop something that churns this thing and makes it easy enough or sort of solutional enough to be sucked out using a normal suction pump. Okay, so that is one problem. Other problem gets magnified with the structure of India. इस सेप्टिक टैंक का कोई स्टैंडर्ड डिज़ाइन नहीं है, मतलब देयर इज अ रिकमेंडेड डिज़ाइन, बट लोग को जैसे मन करता है वैसे बनाते हैं. आपके घर बना रहे हो, आप उसके कॉर्नर में थोड़ा सा जगह बच गया, वहाँ पर सेप्टिक टैंक डाल दो. कॉर्नर में नहीं बचा हुआ, घर के पीछे जगह बची हुई है, वहाँ पर सेप्टिक टैंक डाल दो. तो पीपल व्हेन दे आर बिल्डिंग सेप्टिक टैंक दे डोंट थिंक अबाउट हाउ द मेंटेनेंस ऑफ दैट विल लुक लाइक. दे हैव टू मेक अ सेप्टिक टैंक. Recommended depth is 3 meters या 2.5 meters. People will make it for 5 meters. Abhi now it will end up contaminating the groundwater. They don't think about all of these environmental scenarios. कोई चेक करने वाला भी नहीं है मॉनिटरिंग एजेंसी की who will look at it and say कि सेप्टिक टैंक ऐसा बनाओ वैसे बनाओ. All you have is a 1980 का एक document that talks about septic tank standardization. So this is the challenge. कहीं पर सेप्टिक टैंक ग्राउंड पे बना हुआ है, कहीं पर 3 फीट ऊपर बना हुआ है, उसको कैसे क्लीन करोगे? घर के अंदर बना हुआ है, वहाँ पर रोबोट कैसे जाएगा? So there are these multiple challenges on the operational side.
घर के अंदर मतलब घर के नीचे?
हाँ.
अच्छा.
हाँ मतलब
okay. There is no access to the.
Yes, there is no access. Clean कहाँ से करोगे आप? The only access that they provide is a pipe could come in and they will suck it out. But that is not enough. Suction वो water करेगा, वो मतलब sludge जो fecal sludge है वो तो रह गया ना फिर.
But how will the robot enter?
हाँ, so that's why it makes complicated. It becomes complicated. Okay. Like so, we have now enabled a boom system through which it can actually have an arm that can go inside some part of the room and then try to do it. We've still not been able to figure out कि अगर घर के अंदर कॉर्नर वाले रूम में रहेगा तो कहाँ से जाएंगे.
So it's interesting. It's not just one robot which sort of re-solutionizes.
You can't do that. You can't do that. The problem is the like multiple type of ecosystem challenges that sort of do it. So this is the technical depths that you need to understand. And unless you're on the field, आप नहीं समझ पाओगे.
Is this a problem across the world? Like are septic tanks, like in the US, are septic tanks uniform?
उसके साथ दूसरा प्रॉब्लम क्या आता है ना कि septic tanks are there. All the country sites have septic tanks because building a centralized sewer network is very expensive.
Yeah.
So you only build that when there is a density of space. Otherwise, in the sparse spaces, you want to have septic tanks. It is easier standalone. But there, what they have is the roads are wider. So there is a machine per super sucker, right? It costs upwards of 2 to 2.5 crores in India. That can clean because the suction power is so much that it can actually take out even the harder sludge that is there. And in US, UK, the regulations are such that you have to clean it every couple of years.
Okay.
इंडिया की तरफ ऐसा नहीं है कि 10-10 साल छोड़ दिया. मतलब अभी जस्ट रिसेंटली आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट आई एम कमिंग फ्रॉम अ डेमो इन रांची, राइट, एंड देयर वाज अ सेप्टिक टैंक दैट वी वर सपोज्ड टू क्लीन एज अ पार्ट ऑफ द डेमो. हमने पूछा कब क्लीन नहीं हुआ, कब लास्ट क्लीन हुआ था. उन्होंने बोला कि जब से बिल्डिंग बनी है सोसाइटी तब से क्लीन ही नहीं हुआ है वो. तो इवन फॉर सम टाइम आई वाज स्कैर्ड कि अपना रोबोट कर पाएगा क्या इसको. बट फॉर्चुनेटली वी डिड दैट एंड द डेमो बिकेम सक्सेसफुल. But so that is the thing. There is no regulation around that.
Understood.
तो US वगैरह में होता है, regular cleaning होती है, roads are wider, तो super sucker can come in and do that. Budgets are not a constraint. यहाँ पर हमारे पास budget भी constraint है, हमारे पास spaces limited हैं. तो that becomes an operationally challenging thing to do.
So, so you have almost like a product map or a whole series of products in this area alone. And did you go back to the sewer problem and did you solve the sewer problem also?
Yeah, we did. So let me just give you a brief of the products that we have. Okay? So if you look at the underground assets of this sector, one of the challenges is that because these things are underground, diagnostics itself is a problem.
Okay.
So what I was saying is that if you look at the problem statements, right, we are talking about underground asset management. So usme the first thing that is there is because these things are underground, you have to look at how the diagnostics of the problem will happen. When do you know that the assets are faulty? So first piece that we do is diagnostics. Whether you look at water pipelines, sewerage pipeline, drainage systems, we have robots that go inside these pipelines and diagnose the problem. They pinpoint the location and source of the issue. So in water pipelines, it could be contamination, leakages, illegal connections, joint issues. We do that. In sewerage, it could be blockages, inclination issue, design issues and things like that, relining of the interior walls of the sewer network. For stormwater drains, it could be blockages because of which the flooding happens. So multiple things. And we have been successful at making Asia's smallest robot that can go into pipelines as small as 90 mm in diameter. And the reason it becomes very key is because most of the water problems, 80% of them, happens in the distribution network, which is 90 mm to 200 mm. वो लीकेज कंटामिनेशन के सारी चीज़ें. तो अगर वो चीज़ हम अच्छे से सॉल्व कर पाते हैं तो इट सॉल्व्स फॉर अ की एस्पेक्ट ऑफ वाटर एंड दैट्स व्हाट वी हैव बीन एबल टू ओपन अप द वाटर diagnostics market in India. So that is one thing, and our product ranges are called endobots, endoscopy robots. The second part of that is now cleaning. How do you clean these septic tanks? How do you clean the manholes, right? How do you clean these horizontal sewer networks also? उसके लिए we have solution series called homoseps, right? Right now they are doing cleaning of septic tanks as well as manholes. We have a horizontal cleaning robot that is there, a work in progress. It's an R&D. We are calling it R-bot. Okay, so that is the second part. Now these two hardware things will essentially give you reactive solutions. Like problem आया, solve करो. But we wanted to also realize that because these systems are larger, any city that you go to will have 2,000, 3,000 kilometers of networks. उसको आप reactive way में solve करोगे ना, it's very inefficient. So we want to create a system through which we can do it preventive, we can do it predictive. And for that, we created Swasth AI. Swasth AI is one of its kind cloud-based data management software which uses AI to digitize the network. So the entire underground system that you would have, imagine we can bring it on a dashboard and we can get the data of the past problems. We can map it on that with location, give you the insight on when is the asset likely to fail, what actions you need to take. So for example, let's say in a city, somebody is thinking to replace their entire water network, 2,000 kilometers. Now, first of all, do you really need to replace all the 2,000 kilometer of network? The answer may be no.
No, one, I want to stop you here, and maybe because you are embedded in the system, it's obvious for you, but it's not obvious for everyone. When the city lays pipelines, they actually don't create maps.
Yes.
They don't know where the pipelines are. And this is a remarkable thing.
It's a huge issue.
Yeah.
And I think my own understanding has also come in now that I'm involved. But if I actually look at it, no, it becomes very logical, yeah. But who doesn't know that if you're facing certain problem on a daily basis, getting a digital data of that is helpful for you in understanding what will happen in the future.
So this is like a digital twin or a digital map.
You don't need a digital twin, it's a digital map.
Digitization.
Map. Yeah. We don't need a digital twin because digital twin in larger networks. Digital twin works very well for standalone systems. Like आपके पास STP है वैसा है तो digital twin बना दो. But larger network के लिए अभी basic problem ही पहले solve करना पड़ेगा. Digital twin will come later. Right? तो हम क्या कर रहे हैं अभी कि पहले तो मैप करो नेटवर्क को और उसको डिजिटल बनाओ कि लोगों को पता हो कि हाँ यहाँ से जा रही इस स्ट्रीट में यहाँ पर प्रॉब्लम थी, यहाँ पर 6 महीने पहले प्रॉब्लम हुआ था, 3 महीने प्रॉब्लम हुआ था, लास्ट वीक कुछ प्रॉब्लम हुआ है. तो वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट चैलेंजेस ऑफ द सेक्टर इज दैट वी डोंट हैव अ लॉट ऑफ मनी इन दिस सेक्टर, राइट. अगर आप देखोगे तो till some time back, water was not charged, it was free.
Yeah.
Sewerage was not charged, it was free. So it's actually a spending thing for the government rather than an earning thing.
Actually, I want to ask you a question here. Of course, all of this, the customer is the government.
Yes. To a larger extent, we also have industries. Now, if there is a large enough real estate that industries are taking up, like tech parks or manufacturing spaces, then for that real estate, they become responsible for managing the water and sewerage. But for 90-80% of the thing, the government is the customer.
Yeah, and in government kind of, all large institutions where there is a budget allocation, a lot of the budget allocation goes in fixing things.
Correct.
And you know what we call as upstream problems that, I was talking to somebody in Ether earlier, and they were talking about this idea that suppose you have lots of issues in a production line. One way is that you fix all the issues, and then the people who fixed it, they're heroes, like they fix so many issues. But the problem is, why do those issues come in the first place, right? Those are upstream problems. And
it's also because people in these sectors are heavily understaffed. Like, अभी मैं इस पे थोड़ा एकदम रूट में जाऊंगा ना, it's a very complex issue. Think about it. When you go to municipal corporation, you see that all the people there are mid 50s and 60s. क्यों? They're almost on the verge of retirement. New talent is not coming in. ठीक है, वो रिटायर होकर के बहुत ज़्यादा तो कॉर्पोरेशन में वो ऑन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हैं बिकॉज देर आर नॉट इनफ पीपल. तो और व्हेन दे गो अवे ऑल द इन्फॉर्मेशन, सी दिस नॉट अ डिजिटल सिस्टम, राइट. तो सारे इन्फॉर्मेशन के दिमाग और फिजिकल फाइल्स में है. नए बंदे को कुछ आइडिया नहीं है क्या हुआ पहले. तो इन्फॉर्मेशन मिसमैच इज ह्यूज. दैट इज वन. टू, बजट इशूज. दीज आर नॉट रेवेन्यू जनरेटिंग स्ट्रीम्स. So they are relying on central government or the state government or somebody else to come and give budgets for changing things. तो उस केस में जब भी ऐसा बजट आता है तो इमीडिएटली द फर्स्ट थॉट इज कि जो टॉप लेयर की मेरी प्रॉब्लम है वो सॉल्व करूँ.
Okay. So you have 3 lines of business or products. One is in diagnostics, one is in cleaning, and one is in preventive digitalization. Digital maps for preventive care.
Yeah.
What is the traction on these? How many cities how many industries have implemented?
Great. So I think our diagnostics one we have done with more than 20 cities so far, right? We have contracts live in about 7 cities and picking quite well. Water diagnostics, I can say that we created the market in the country because before we were there, people didn't even know that you can do water diagnostics. When we brought the robot, we said कि नहीं कर सकते हैं अभी, try करो. तो then it becomes, because you see what happens is, let's say you have a leakage at your place or a contamination, नल में गंदा पानी आ रहा है. दिल्ली में बहुत सारे केस ऐसा हुआ था, right, recently. क्या करोगे आप? You complain to the municipality, they'll come ask all the households nearby who are having the same problem. They will have a 200 meter का around length.
सब कुछ
हर जगह आके खोदेंगे वो भी. हर 10 मीटर 15 मीटर खोदेंगे, देखेंगे यहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम है क्या, right? That will take you 3-4 days.
Okay.
रोड डिग हो रहा है, रोड खराब हो रहा है, टाइम जा रहा है, पानी की वेस्टेज हो रही है तब तक. What we do, we identify from one point or a wall where the robot goes in. Within 2 hours, it tells you where the problem is.
Okay.
Then you fix the problem.
Okay. So from your 4th year college where Dr. Prabhu gave you a simple assignment, you have taken that assignment. It's a business which is live in 20 plus cities and it's growing very fast. We have also seen you on Shark Tank, right? And I don't know whether Shark Tank jury was harder or the manual scavengers were harder to present to.
No, so I think Shark Tank jury was very easier for me comparatively. Yeah, they were very considerate.
I can imagine. I want to ask you a question here. And we spoke about it briefly before this started about just decision making, right? This is a really hard problem, engineering wise. It's a hard problem to business wise.
Absolutely.
It's hard to raise money on this sector.
200%. Yes.
It's hard to attract talent in this sector. How do you find the daily motivation or sort of the drive to do this?
Sir, I think मेरे अंदर कीड़ा है, ठीक है. जब कोई मेरे को बोलता है ना कि नहीं होगा, तो मैं फिर उसको गलत प्रूव करने में लग जाता हूँ. And I do not know if that is a good thing in the long run, but it's just the way it is. तो फर्स्ट टाइम जब सेकेंड ईयर में स्टार्टअप कर रहा था तो लोगों ने बोला कि ऐसा थोड़ी होता है. मैंने बोला करके दिखाऊंगा. फिर जब ये कर रहा था फिर ये आइडिया आया तो सोचा कि इसको भी स्टार्टअप बनाएंगे. तो कुछ लोगों ने बोला कि भाई दो चीज़ें नहीं चला सकता तू.
मैंने भी वही बोला था.
हाँ ठीक है. तो
I remember this very clearly. We met in 2019 and I'm like, Divanshu, 2020 maybe.
2020 after graduation, yeah.
I'm like, Divanshu, तू क्या कर रहा है? Why are you running two startups? एक बंद कर दे. I'm glad you did.
तो मैंने बोला कि ये करके मतलब कोशिश तो करते हैं, कुछ ना कुछ हो जाएगा. मतलब फेल भी करूँगा तो कम से कम समझ में आएगा कि क्यों फेल हुआ, राइट? तो coming to this part, right? Couple of things happened. I think one was I got attached to the problem statement. मुझे लगा कि यार honestly we are talking about satellites, we are talking about like so much innovation in the country from an engineering perspective.
Okay.
Why is it that a problem that affects billions of people every day is still not getting attention? Like पानी यार, वो मेरे शहर में मतलब सप्लाई वाला पानी ऐसे वेस्ट होते जाता है. People don't care. We have like half of the people in the slum, they drink directly from the tap. Contaminated water they drink, they get hospitalized. It's $1 billion public health problem. Why isn't talent coming here? Right? Why aren't people thinking about solving it? Why? How can we so like neutral about this? कि नहीं फर्क पड़ रहा है, मेरी प्रॉब्लम थोड़ी है, हमें तो बिस्लेरी से पानी मिल रहा है. And this, I think this is not acceptable to me. Right? This has to change. So I don't mind failing after 5 years realizing कि I couldn't do it. But जब तक करूँगा तब तक मतलब पूरे जज्बे से करूँगा. And I'll put all that I have into this. तो उसी में फिर even like let's say we talk about investment, technology, business. So now we are looking at it very categorically. So investment हो गया, right? We know that not every financial investor will be interested in us, and it's fine. Good part is eliminate all of them in the first conversation itself. तो अभी मतलब जैसे कोई पूछने आता है ना, मतलब they are interested in let's say investing because they see lot of media glare around us and the impact of it, and they come and ask us. I said, boss, I'll tell you 3 things about us that you may not like, and you can choose to walk away right then and there. 1, we will work with government. Right, there's a good half 50-60% exposure with the government business that will be there. I can't change that because water sanitation is a government problem. 2, we are into hardware business. India is not yet very good at hardware. We will have supply chain issues. We will have bill of material variations because of something. अभी यूक्रेन में वॉर हो रहा है, मेरा डीसी कनेक्टर नहीं मिल रहा क्योंकि वो यूक्रेन में वॉर में जो कंपनी बनाती थी वो बंद हो गई. अभी कोई दूसरा वेंडर ढूंढना पड़ेगा इंटरनेशनली. DC connector is such a small part of my robot. अब उसके लिए ढूंढना पड़ेगा. तो हार्डवेयर में supply chain becomes an issue because India में not all the sort of components you can get very well and on time, on quality. Third is I will prioritize social impact, which is what I mean when I say that is अभी manual scavenging बोलना है eliminate करने के लिए. So I can say कि I have developed a robot and अभी हो गया. But I know that the problem doesn't get solved there. Unless you work with the सफाई कर्मचारीज, you work on their training, you work on their rehabilitation with some non-profits, your job does not get over.
I want to ask you on that question, on the momentum that you have now and on the momentum that the government has in all their schemes, how long do you think it will take to solve manual scavenging? Solve matlab to a reasonable couple of decades?
Because momentum is still there at a central government level. Central government is talking a lot about it. But समझना पड़ेगा कि central government is just an advocacy body. Central government doesn't make decisions of implementation. water sanitation is a municipal subject. At max, state can push you to do that. But central government is just advocacy. They will release a policy advisory note saying कि ये करना चाहिए. They cannot force you to do that. So that's a distinction of like sort of nuances. But anyway, coming to this part, like I was saying, right? So fundraising वाले में तो मैं बोलता हूँ कि exposure to government, hardware, social impact. इस तीनों के बाद भी आपको करना है क्या? Because I am definitely not the best investment that you will make from a returns point of view, like financial return point of view. So if you have some extra motive beyond financial return, then I can be a very good fit. Like we are opening up market, like there are markets that don't exist today that we're trying to open up. Like technology investment into water and sanitation is a very new field, right? We are opening that. And like, even if I don't become successful at solving the problem, I can at least feel good that we contributed to opening up that sector. So we invest a lot in policy making right now.
Just to be clear, you are succeeding quite well. Your momentum is high.
So I think so. There's something. One of my learning was there when my first startup was starting, and like I went to a session, and we were discussing about scale, and the speaker who was there. He told solving at a scale that India needs.
Right.
And I think this is what I associate myself with.
Right.
So agar let's say involve me, just like involve me work with 6 lakh students. But my problem statement is for 250 million students. 250 million mein 0.6 million is not even 0.02%. Sorry, 0.2%.
Yeah.
Right. So how can I take pride that I've actually contributed? Okay, done something.
And in the Solinas side, what is your penetration, you would assume? How many robots and cities should you be working with, and how many are you at?
So easily, even if I take on the like decently sizable cities, like just I'm talking about the Amrut cities. Amrut is a scheme by central government, Ministry of Health and Urban Affairs. They have this scheme for 500 cities. तो 500 सिटी का तो टारगेट लेके चलूंगा ना कि मतलब होगा. अभी क्या कर रहे हैं हम लोग? 10 सिटी, 12 सिटी, 15 सिटी. तो 2%, 3% is the penetration.
Right.
That's not enough.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Fantastic. Let's talk about Involve. This is your first startup.
Yes.
Which you started as a second year student.
Yes.
बताओ.
Yeah, तो एक तो entrepreneurship में घुसा for a very funny reason. I came back from summer vacation of first year, and my best friend Vaibhav, he told that he is starting up. And मैंने बोला भाई किसको पागल बना रहा है, ठीक है, कॉलेज में हम लोग स्टार्टअप नहीं करते, बिकॉज आई डेंट हैव एनी एक्सपोजर अबाउट दैट. ठीक है, मैं तो यहाँ पर पढ़ाई करने आया था. उसने बोला नहीं मैं कर रहा हूँ. उसका एक मॉडल था अच्छा, मतलब रेंट ज्वेलरी ऑन रेंट, दैट वाज द मॉडल दैट ही वाज वर्किंग ऑन, एंड ही हैड फेयरली सॉर्ट ऑफ सेट इट अप इन द समर. तो आई wanted to get into entrepreneurship just because I thought that I am at least equal or better than him.
मगर वो कर सकता है तो
मैं क्यों नहीं कर सकता यार?
I don't think people realize how important that ecosystem is. कि मेरे अगल बगल में सब कोई स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं, सब कोई कुछ बना रहे हैं. That completely changes the environment.
No, I think so. This is something that you think about the perspective, right? When I came in here, I did not have any exposure about these things earlier. I came from a very smaller school, small town in Bihar. जब मैंने देखा मेरे को लगा यार ये तो गजब की चीज़ है. Other thing could have been that you get overwhelmed and you see यार तो लोग इतना कर रहे हैं, मैं क्या ही कर पाऊंगा ना. So I think the thing to understand here is that for me IIT Madras was a land of opportunities, right? I realized कि भाई कुछ ना कुछ तो इसमें कर लूँगा. मतलब if you try 5 things in the first year or 6 things in the first year, एक चीज़ तो निकलेगा जिसमें क्लिक करेगा and you will find your passion and that you are good at it and double down on that. So I think this is why I am incredibly grateful to this place.
This ecosystem.
Yeah.
So in your second year, you started a education startup. Can you tell us about how you started?
Sure.
And where it's gone to now?
Sure. So like I said, started primarily because my best friend wanted to start up. Vaibhav wanted to start up, and I wanted to tell him that I'm either equal or better than him.
Thank you, Vaibhav.
So that was the initial kick. But the idea and everything came from my work at Avanti Fellows.
Okay.
So I was first year I was a mentor, second year I was a manager of one of the centers at Avanti Fellows, one of the co-managers. And bit of context of Avanti Fellows, what they do is they get high-performing 11th and 12th grade kids from underprivileged backgrounds to come and stay in a Jawaharlal Navodaya Vidyalaya, and they get them video training of IIT JEE syllabus along with IITians mentorship, so that they can crack competitive exams. So that this is the context. Second year when I was a manager along with
Jawaharlal Navodaya Vidyalaya is like the sort of the KV for a little better students.
Yes,
right?
yes. Better depending on how you plan it. KV is not residential. Jawan Navodaya Vidyalaya is residential.
Okay.
And it is there in every district generally. So the thing was there ki in Tamil Nadu you don't have JNVs. So the nearest JNV that is there is in Pondicherry.
Okay.
So initial kick तो उसको ज्वाइन करने का ये भी था कि हर वीक पौंडीचेरी जाने मिलेगा फ्री में. So that was thing. But anyway, so now coming to this second year में, when I was a co-manager along with Vedant, who is my badminton friend, we had a problem where the internet wasn't working for a couple of months. I tried working with the management of Avanti, local people, but just was not able to figure out. And I'm generally very impatient. तो मैंने बोला यार बच्चों का नुकसान हो रहा है, तो ये तो नहीं होने दूंगा. So what I said was I restructured my entire team at IIT to say that you will not just go and mentor these kids, but you will take a 3-hour proper classroom. You have just studied the syllabus like 1 year, 2 year back. You will teach them. And second, I instructed the 12th graders to do doubt solving for the 11th graders, because I told them कि भाई देख exam में तो 11, 12 दोनों का syllabus आएगा. So you will also get practice. So it was a win-win. 3 months later, in fact, when the internet came back and the video classes were on, what I realized was, even though these kids were not experts in those missed subjects, they weren't lagging behind either. So they had managed to catch up with this support that I provided. और वो थोड़ा सा light bulb moment था मेरे लिए. I realized कि learning के लिए you don't need experienced teachers all the time. You can actually have a peer group. और कॉलेज में भी तो वही करते थे. Light bulb वहाँ पर था कि peer group को अगर एक certain way में if I can structure, then I can solve the problem of personalized learning. Because if you look at any classroom, it always has 30, 40, 50 students. एक टीचर के लिए पॉसिबल नहीं है कि वो सबको टेंशन दे पाएगा. So that was the problem statement that I picked, that in a multi-grade schools where we have like K-12 system, if you can get the senior students to teach their juniors in a group learning environment and we contextualize the subject and the training for them, it could work wonders for the academic.
Right.
So that was the thing.
When you are saying peer group, you don't mean your own class, but you mean
seniors, 2 years, 3 years senior. That was the thing. Plus two at the bare minimum. That was the initial sort of problem statement that we picked. Little did we know that this model doesn't just benefit the juniors, but does exceptionally well for seniors who end up teaching. Because if you look at it, for school-going kid, the only way to learn experiential leadership is either sports or teaching. और sports में सब लोग नहीं करते. So teaching is a good way for you to actually learn about problem solving, collaboration, taking initiative, communication, all the leadership skills that you want in a very experiential manner. जब बच्चा actually में पढ़ाना शुरू करता है, his own knowledge has to be very good. He needs to manage that group of 4 or 5 kids who are like talking in their own way and things like that. So it becomes a very beautiful ecosystem that way. वो हमें उस समय पता नहीं था. When we did the pilot at the end of 2016, end of second year, then we realized that this is a good model. And more than that, of course, we got covered in a couple of national newspapers. We won a couple of competitions. So थोड़ा confidence भी आ गया कि हम सही कर रहे हैं. I was asked to present in Chicago about our model, and we won that social entrepreneurship competition as well.
I think you sent me some pictures, so let me pull them up out.
Yeah. So that essentially became very well for us. Photos, I think. Yeah. So that is where
this is the Avanti.
This is the Avanti group. Yeah, this is the Avanti. So this is Vedant. This is Kaushik, was the head, and yes, also was the manager along with us.
So young you guys look.
Yeah, I was 18. I was 18 during that time. So like Involve was, the pilot of Involve happened when I was 18. This is when I was 19. We were selected by Singapore International Foundation. We became one of the winners of the program. And that's how sort of the thing got a bit,
and this
structured.
is your co-founder.
Yeah,
right?
this is my co-founder, Samyak. So he's actually 1 year junior to me, but we both graduated in 2019 because I was a dual degree, he was a BTech. So sort of that is how it came. So pilot was successful, like beyond successful. Or pilot also taught me the first lesson about business. Yeah, matlab, when I initially did the budgeting of the pilot, it came out to be about 2.5 lakhs. अब पैसे कुछ भी नहीं थे, like zero. I didn't want to take money from dad because he was, but the family is not like कि बहुत पैसे हैं आराम से ले लो. तो उनको ऑलरेडी प्रेशर में डालना चाहता था. कॉलेज में भी स्कॉलरशिप में पढ़ रहा था, तो इट वाजंट लाइक वेरी गुड दैट टाइम. तो आइडिया वाज कि हाउ डू यू डू इट, राइट. तो पहले तो फिर इनोवेटिव मॉडल में कॉस्ट कटिंग शुरू किया, और इसके एक मतलब, एंड आई थिंक दिस इज वेयर माई फर्स्ट लर्निंग ऑफ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप ऑल्सो केम, दैट व्हेन यू वांट टू प्रोटोटाइप समथिंग, you don't need a lot of capital to do that. You can always find smaller means to test your idea. And I think this is something that I keep telling people, that if somebody comes to me and says कि अभी मेरे को इसको टेस्ट करने के लिए 5 लाख रुपए 10 लाख रुपए जरूरत है, मतलब भाई just figure out a simple structure that is solved. किसी को ऐप बनाना है, मतलब ऐप मत बनाओ, एक्सेल शीट पे काम करो पहले. Free tools are available for you to test your technology or to test your sort of hypothesis. तो हमने भी वही किया. हमारे पास वो 2.5 लाख बजट, मैंने बोला कि यार 2.5 लाख का बजट तो कर नहीं पाएंगे. मैंने कहा where can we cut cost? So one very good insight came was we needed about 10-15 interns, I think, who we were planning to pay about 10,000-15,000 like this to be with us for 2 months during the summer. अभी somebody gave me this idea, पता नहीं कहाँ से मेरे को याद है. हाँ, idea यहाँ से आया था कि the school that we were trying to partner with, they said कि you don't have any brand, you don't have any organization. So we have a lot of risk partnering with you for the program and you're trying to do something which is very different also. मतलब बच्चों से बच्चों को पढ़वा रहे हो, कुछ भी गड़बड़ हो गया तो पेरेंट्स भी हमें मतलब आकर के करेंगे.
पता नहीं
तो
क्या पढ़ा देंगे.
हाँ, तो वी नीड इंस्टीट्यूशनल सपोर्ट. उन्होंने बोला कि आईटी से दो तुम, अगर आईटी का ब्रांड मिल जाए तो बढ़िया बात है. मैं बोला अच्छा, आईटी का ब्रांड मीन्स आप पार्टनरशिप दे दोगे? तो बोले हाँ. मैंने बोला ये करवा दूंगा मैं. तो फिर फॉर्चुनेटली आई गॉट बैक विथ नागराजन सर, हु वाज द डीन ऑफ ICSR एट दैट पॉइंट टाइम, एंड आई टोल्ड हिम द एंटायर आइडिया. आई टोल्ड हिम कि सर कुछ नहीं चाहिए, पैसे वैसे कुछ नहीं चाहिए, आप बस बोलो कि हाँ दिस कैन बी सपोर्टेड बाय सम सॉर्ट ऑफ ग्रुप ऑफ IIT Madras दैट इज रेलेवेंट टू दिस, एंड सर्टिफिकेट पे साइन कर देना आप. नहीं, सर्टिफिकेट पे साइन बाद में आया, तो मैंने बस वो बोला. तो फिर स्कूल मान गया फिर उसके बाद, राइट. आई देन आई थॉट कि स्कूल मान सकता है अगर, तो क्या इंटर्न्स को भी मना सकता हूँ. तो आई पिच टू ऑल द ग्रुप ऑफ इंटर्न्स सेइंग कि डू यू वांट अ 10,000 रुपीज़ का स्टाइपेंड और यू वांट अ सर्टिफिकेट वेयर द डीन ऑफ IIT Madras डिपार्टमेंट विल साइन, एंड इट विल बी IIT Madras लाइक सपोर्टेड सर्टिफिकेट. एवरीबडी वाज सोल्ड ऑन दिस. मेरा मैन पावर का 75% ऑफ द कॉस्ट गॉट एलिमिनेटेड. ठीक है. उसके बाद फिर बाकी आया तो कुछ ना कुछ लोकल स्पॉन्सरशिप निकाल लिया, कुछ ना कुछ जुगाड़ करके स्कूल को बोला कि पिच इन सम कॉस्ट, और करके 24 या 22,000 में देन द प्रोजेक्ट फाइनल कॉस्ट के. आई वॉज स्टिल 2 months अवे फ्रॉम द प्रोजेक्ट. आई स्टार्टेड टेकिंग प्राइवेट ट्यूशंस. तो प्राइवेट ट्यूशन से लगभग 12,000 रुपये मिल गए. और वैभव एंड यामिनी, अनदर वेरी गुड फ्रेंड ऑफ माइन, they knew that I was doing something because I would be like doing some things after like college. उनको पता नहीं था क्या कर रहा हूँ, but they knew that I am trying to do something good and I am putting a lot of मेहनत for that, hard work for that. So they convinced all the friends to pool in money for my birthday, which was just like before the pilot was supposed to start. तो 12,000-12,500 रुपये वो उससे भी आए. So that is how my first funding for the pilot came in. तो वो 24,000 रुपये, 24,500 रुपये जो थे requirement, that is how we ended up doing it.
This is an extremely good masterclass. 25 lakh is to 2.5 lakh is your original cost.
Yeah.
You dropped it by 90%.
92%, yeah.
To 2 lakh, 25,000.
24,000, yeah.
And then you managed to somehow source half of it yourself and half of it through your friends and family. Amazing.
And I think my lessons of gratitude has come from this. That we have a lot of stories where say कि people are not supportive, they don't care and all that. But in my life, people have. Right? I have come to this place because enormous amount of people have gone beyond what they could to do that. Like if I end up talking about those stories, ना वो मतलब पूरा दिन निकल जाएगा. कितने सारे लोग हैं.
एक बात बताओ, you said at some point lot of coincidences, lot of luck and so on. I remember you said that you getting here to IIT Madras is also a very strange, almost by chance story, right? So shall we just go over this? And I also have this picture that you sent from your 10th.
This is for 12th. Yeah, just before the thing. And 10th वाला उसके पहले का होगा. Yes, 10th, yeah. So एग्जाम लिख दिया. आई वॉज प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर IIT इन 11th and 12th फ्रॉम दिल्ली.
मतलब इसमें तो आपके कुछ भी नहीं आया है.
जब 10th में बहुत मतलब एकदम, और एक तो सूखा हुआ भी था मैं, ठीक है. तो मतलब अभी तो फिर भी डूइंग मच बेटर, बट जब मैंने केम इनटू कॉलेज उस समय तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा पतला था मैं. तो फर्स्ट ईयर के और पिक्चर देखोगे इस समय तो बहुत ही था. बट एनीवे क्या हुआ, एग्जाम लिख दिया. माई प्रायोरिटी फॉर डिपार्टमेंट वॉज मैकेनिकल बिकॉज इंटरेस्ट वॉज इन रोबोटिक्स एंड ऑटोमोटिव. तो वो था. तो माई प्रेफरेंसेज वर IIT बॉम्बे मैकेनिकल, दिल्ली मैकेनिकल, कानपुर मैकेनिकल, मद्रास मैकेनिकल, लाइक दैट. उसमें क्या हुआ, एग्ज़ाम लिखा तो पता चल गया कि IIT बॉम्बे तो नहीं मिलने वाला, क्योंकि रैंक मतलब एग्ज़ाम खराब कर दिया था मैंने. तो आई न्यू कि वो नहीं होगा. दिल्ली भी ऑल्सो ऑलमोस्ट फेल्ट आउट ऑफ रीच, बट कानपुर आई वॉज वेरी कॉन्फिडेंट अबाउट. ठीक है. प्लस इनफैक्ट जिस दिन रिजल्ट आया, आई वॉज इन IIT कानपुर विथ वन ऑफ माई कजन ब्रदर्स. I had talked to multiple people कि मैं तो मैकेनिकल यहाँ पर ज्वाइन करने वाला हूँ, ये हॉस्टल होगा, ऐसे वैसे करके पूरा खुश हो रहा था।
वैभव कहाँ है?
तो उसके बाद क्या हुआ, वैभव तो अभी तक आया नहीं ना, वैभव का
मैं मजाक कर रहा था।
तो मैं नेक्स्ट डे मॉर्निंग में रिजल्ट कम्स, आई वाज स्लीपिंग एंड पीपल ऑफ कोर्स पोरिंग इनटू कांग्रेचुलेट से कि बढ़िया रैंक आया है, 1100 के आसपास का कुछ रैंक था। एंड आई सी इट एंड आई ऑलमोस्ट रियलाइज कि शायद IIT कानपुर नहीं मिल पाएगा, इट्स मतलब ऑलमोस्ट गोइंग टू बी ऑन द एज। सो आई एम नॉट हैप्पी एट ऑल, राइट, आई एम ऑलमोस्ट क्राइंग कि भाई तभी तो ये हो जाएगा, क्योंकि नेक्स्ट चॉइस वाज मद्रास। एंड तक मैं सोच रहा था कि फाइनल काउंसलिंग में शायद मतलब कुछ तो अपडेट हो जाए, बट एक नंबर से अराउंड 65 रैंक और 68 रैंक कुछ ऐसा ही था, आई लॉस्ट IIT कानपुर, नेक्स्ट चॉइस IIT मद्रास डुअल डिग्री। तो व्हाट वाज सपोज टू बी अ 6 hours जर्नी फ्रॉम होम, ओवरनाइट है कानपुर गया बिहार से हूँ मैं, वो मद्रास आ गया। एंड नाउ इट इज़ लाइक, अब तो ठीक है फिर भी फ्लाइट की है, पहले तो ट्रेन में ट्रैवल करते थे, तो इट यूज्ड टू बी 48 hours यार, 42 44 hours का ट्रेन होता था, वो भी 2-3 घंटे लेट हो गया तो 48 hours। वीकली ट्रेन चलती थी, नई शुरू हुई थी, गया चेन्नई मोर एक्सप्रेस, दैट वाज द ओनली ऑप्शन टू कम। साउथ इंडिया है, फॉर मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल इन नॉर्थ इंडिया दे डोंट हैव एनी एक्सपोजर अबाउट साउथ, सबको लगता है कि ऑल द 5 states आर मद्रास, right, and Madrasi is the language, so that was like also the ignorance that we have. People think that the only thing that you eat is idli vada dosa. So people were scaring me so much, your life has now become this, तो क्या करेगा वहाँ जा करके, कोई भी हिंदी में बात नहीं करेगा। And I did not know good English, right, like I had studied in a fairly sort of low middle class school, तो वहाँ पर इंग्लिश अच्छी नहीं थी, तो I was also thinking कि सर्वाइवल कैसे होगा। But all of that, when I came here, I think it was the best thing that could have happened to me, because one is professional exposure, of course, because IIT Madras is great that way, like the R&D is great, the ecosystem is great, the people, like being in the forest is amazing, in the heart of the city, right, so that way I think it is amazing. But the second part also, because I did not come from the culture, personally my own exposure was great, like I began to accept other perspectives which are very very different from what I like had experience in the first 20 years or 18 years of my life.
You were almost like pushed out of your comfort zone,
हाँ,
and you had to sort of prove yourself again.
हाँ, और उसके साथ साथ ये भी था कि पर्सनली भी मेरे लिए बहुत ही नई चीज़ें थी, राइट, द कल्चर इज़ वेरी डिफरेंट, the food habits are different, the way you think things different, so all of those cultural changes also are seeing. Cinema is very different, like all we were exposed was Bollywood, यहाँ पर हर स्टेट का अलग अलग सिनेमा है, and they are doing phenomenal, like केरला में stories are great, कर्नाटका में cinematography is great, तेलुगु में like the whole drama is great. So as a person who admires cinema a lot, I felt that this was very good thing for me, like cultural wise also, like culture wise I just loved that whole system, knowing about new things. तो मेरे को I think वो बहुत मज़ा आया, and I'm grateful that this happened and I came to Madras and my worldview kind of expanded.
And by the time you came here, the entrepreneurship environment was a little better. CFI was there. We are sitting in CFI.
Yeah. पहले मेरे को ये पहले वाला CFI मेरे को ज़्यादा अच्छा लगता था, just to put this on the record. I like that blood, sweat and tears. You could actually do that. एक मतलब इसमें अभी तो काफी comfortable हो गया है.
Those who haven't seen this before, we are sitting in CFI, Center for Innovation. It's a huge building, and students.
One of its kind in the country.
Is it the only one?
Yeah.
Private maker space, there are a lot.
But institute के अंदर a big space like this where you have more than 15-18 clubs doing 4-5 projects simultaneously.
Yeah.
Purely out of interest, no academic degree.
Yeah.
बच्चे यहाँ पर मतलब 3-3 बजे रात को 4-4 बजे रात को आकर के यहाँ पर मतलब they are doing building stuff and they have built great problem statements, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is just phenomenal.
Yeah. And what Divanshu is talking about is that the previous CFI was 1/5, 1/10.
You were one of the founding batch.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
But मैंने कभी CFI में काम नहीं किया है. मेरे time के बाद आया.
बाद आया वही तो. You were the ones who pulled in the
set it up,
हाँ,
and then we were gone. By the time you were in CFI, I think Tarun and Swapnil would have come and left.
Yeah.
FSA team was there.
Yeah. So
bunch of successful teams were there.
Yeah. Raftar was doing very well. We had Amog, I think, also was there. ये सब था. बाकी टीम से बने कंपटीशन टीम्स 2 ही 3 थे. रोबोकॉन उस समय था बट फिर खत्म हो गया बिकॉज रोबोकॉन आई थिंक एज अ कंपटीशन इटसेल्फ डिड नॉट वाज देयर आफ्टर सम टाइम. तो वो सब था. आई हैड एन इंटरेस्ट ऑफ स्टार्टिंग द फॉर्मूला इलेक्ट्रिक रेसिंग टीम. हमने वो भी ट्राई मारा था थर्ड ईयर में, वो did not go anywhere after first year because multiple things यार. जो लोगों को टीम में लिया था all of them were academically very good, so they preferred to go for their international internships than staying in the summer to do work.
But you also went abroad on for this
That was very briefly. That was just like 4-5 days का trip ऐसा. My intent was never to go abroad for a longer duration. But I felt that मतलब I don't know, like I like staying here.
Talk to me about this picture. This is you receiving your degree and an award, right?
हाँ. तो context का ये है कि when I ended up finally graduating in 2019, I was one of the only 2 students to receive an academic as well as a non-academic prize. Now my parents are like fan of
Modi.
Prime Minister, yes. So for them to be sitting 3 rows away and seeing their kid like getting that award, I think for me that was the achievement. Like मेरे को लगा कि award तो ठीक है, but to see that pride in my parents' eyes, because यार मैंने बहुत तगड़ा placement तो लिया नहीं है, ठीक है. 2019 if you look at it, I was earning like 25-30,000 just from involved just to sustain.
And median salary of a graduate from IIT Madras is about 20-23 lakhs.
My own package was that. मतलब मेरे पास PPO था Mondelez का, तो मैं पैसे में तो उनको मतलब ये नहीं देने वाला था उस समय.
आपके पास Mondelez का PPO था जो आपने रिजेक्ट करके you were when you graduated you were focusing on your education startup.
Yeah. So education startup I and Samyak became serious at the end of third year itself. We knew कि इसको full time करेंगे हम लोग, ठीक है. तो not just I let go of the PPO. We also did not sit in the placements. Both me and Samyak. We took a conscious call to not sit for placements. And we were like ठीक है देखते हैं. मतलब we had extended our placement by 1 year, but it never got to that कि हमें बैठना पड़े. तो फिर हमने वो ये किया. तो मतलब 20-21 लाख का पैकेज तो वहाँ पर मतलब मिल जाता. एंड बीच में थोड़ा सा बुरा भी लगता था बिकॉज माई विंग वॉज अ ओवर अचीवर विंग. मतलब अगर मैं बोलूँ मतलब 6-7 लोग जो हम लोग क्लोज फ्रेंड्स थे विंग में, नील एंडर गोइंग टू MIT, शिवम बिकेम APM एट फ्लिपकार्ट, 2 रोल या 1 रोल ही लोग चुनते हैं. पॉल वेंट टू HSBC.
वैसे मुझे भी वैसा ही लगता है कि मेरे विंग में तो मैं लोएस्ट
एग्जैक्टली. तो वो ऐसे सब लोग मतलब ऐसे कर रहे थे और मैं यहाँ पर मतलब trying to still figure out what I wanted to do. So
this is amazing and very inspirational. The decisions you have taken at all points. You know, sometimes when I think about it, when you wake up in the morning, there's always an option ki I will use the privilege that I've got and take the easy way out, take a job, live a chill life, or I don't know. Or you have the option of building, creating something, improving something, and it always feels like you've taken that second decision. It's amazing. It's very inspirational. But थोड़ा मैं ये भी कहना चाहता हूँ कि it's a little, it's one of those things where you see an entrepreneur who has taken these tough decisions throughout, and when young students at graduation level, at engineering level, they look at this, they're quite scared कि इतना struggle करना होगा क्या?
But so that see, just because I have taken extreme steps at certain time doesn't mean you have to. If I have to actually give advice, right? I'm not saying anybody कि तुम most difficult problem जाके solve करो. That is not the intent. It's a personal choice that I've made. I don't expect anybody to sort of do the same thing, right? You have to choose your own comfort level on these things. What my advice though would be that you spend time figuring out what you can do, right? ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. I think the important piece for anybody, and without going into the larger philosophical angle of things, is to really think about what value we create, right? What delta gets created by me being there in the system, whichever system you are in, right? That is a very important question that I think everybody should answer. And what is my possibility also? Like sort of, let's say if I'm in McKinsey, I can change this much, versus I can go to a startup, I can change this much without compromising a lot on my non-negotiables, then I would choose that. That should be the mental model, right? तो मैं तो ये सोच रहा हूँ कि जब आप कॉलेज से ग्रेजुएट कर रहे हो, राइट, यू एक्चुअली डू नॉट, लोग ऑप्टिमाइज कर रहे हैं 18 लाख की जॉब वर्सेस 20 लाख की जॉब, तो अपने पैसे देखे भी नहीं उतने, for all you know, your expenses will be less than 6 lakh rupees an annum. बैचलर की तरह हो गया ना, मतलब शादी तो 4-5 साल के बाद ही होगी. Unless you come from a background where your parents are dependent on you, then it's a different thing that you prioritize sort of financial gain. But otherwise, you can prioritize like exposure, learning, figuring out things.
Exposure and impact.
हाँ, ट्राई तो करो यार. तुम 3 साल के बाद वापस बेस्ट पेइंग जॉब में चले जाओ, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. यू हैव द IIT बैकिंग ऑल्सो. तो मैं तो हमेशा क्वेश्चन करता हूँ कि यार, इफ वी एज IITians डोंट टेक द रिस्क, it's not even a risk. If we as IITians don't take that decision, the road less taken, let's say, और कौन करेगा भाई? तो हमारे पास फिर भी 2 साल का फेल स्टार्टअप के बाद जाकर के वो रिज्यूमे में डालेंगे ना, मतलब people will pay you more because of the experience. And I'm not saying this made up stuff. Like I have like my friends who started up.
ये बात सबको बताना जरूरी है कि if you have started up and you have failed, your resume value actually goes up.
Goes up. Yes. And now it doesn't mean that
and doesn't
figure out a hack for that. ये IIT वाले लोग बहुत करते हैं, ठीक है. उनको अब ये हैक लग जाता है, उनको लगता है कि चलो ठीक है, अब जॉब से पहले एक फेल्ड स्टार्टअप करेंगे, उसको जानबूझ कर दिखाएंगे. तो वो करने नहीं बोल रहा हूँ मैं. But what I'm trying to say is that you have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Right? You can choose to explore things and try things out.
Yeah.
It will not be a risk for you.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is something that is very critical.
Yeah, correct. The value of the resume goes up if you have done, if you've taken a lot of effort, you've grown, you've learned, and therefore in your next job you're bringing all those skills. You know, I've spoken to manual scavengers myself. I've figured out how to sell this. I've figured out this hard engineering. I've hustled. I've reduced the cost from 2.5 lakhs to 25,000.
Think about it, like the kind of things that I had experience of before I graduated.
Yeah.
I think it was immensely valuable for me.
Yeah.
Right. मैंने एक project independently execute किया in some other location, not in Chennai, in Delhi. Mobilized a team of 20 people, budget of 2.5 lakhs. Ran it successfully, got published in a couple of newspapers.
Right.
Raised money up to a tune of like 3-4 lakh rupees, big sum at that point in time, for a project that was not even registered. Uske baad, a couple of other institute things also that we did, like the e-cell and everything that we were working on. So it was incredible that you learn from these experiences.
Yeah. आप इतना काम कर रहे हो, you're working so much and you've done 2 startups. Do you have time to do things like Netflix?
Really? I do a lot of Netflix.
Is it?
हाँ, मतलब तो यार देखो, एक तो ये है कि even you work let's say 14-15 hours a day, थोड़ा तो chill time चाहिए होता है. Right? जैसे I recently got into this thing where before sleeping, Instagram was my this thing 15 minutes of Instagram. तो उसमें कहता था, मतलब तो मेरे दोस्त भी बोलते थे कि भाई ये कौन सा टाइम है 1 to 1:30 AM in the night that we get like 10-20 reels from you. तो मैं ऐसे स्क्रॉल कर रहा हूँ, जो रील अच्छा मेरा उस पर 3-4 लोगों को भेज रहा हूँ. तो what I'm trying to get to that कि I think I do enjoy on that front. May not be equivalent to what most of the people would be able to do, but I am finding my way. So for example, I like traveling a lot, and because of work I travel. So what I will do is, let's say if I am in Delhi for a meeting on Friday, okay, so Saturday Sunday I will go to hill station and just chill there, and I'll go to for a trek or something like that. Whenever I'm in flight, I will watch web shows or movies. So I am all updated on the latest web shows that are there. मतलब मैं तो college में I think my 3rd and 4th semester has been about movies and shows. मैं 18 घंटे मतलब shows देखता था. So that not to that extent, but
मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब if you have to start up, you have to give up your life.
यार बिल्कुल नहीं, बिल्कुल. मतलब see, I think I was yesterday, I was watching a video of Indanui, right, talking about like juggling things or managing things, right? So you will not have enough time to do everything, I would say, but it is possible for you to prioritize and do things that way. That I think is possible. You can make those choices.
Yeah.
So अभी जैसे मेरे को अगर, just for example, one of the recent something happened because of which I decided that I would prioritize meeting my parents.
Yeah.
Sort of earlier I would do it once in 4 months or so, but now I have made it a point कि 4 to 6 weeks में मैं करूँगा.
Yeah.
I can do that. Even though they live in Gaya, I don't have a direct flight there. Connect करके जाना पड़ता है. But still I can find 2-3 days out of a month to go there and meet them.
वैसे just for the record, people working in McKinsey and all also find this hard to do. Like उनके पास इतना time नहीं रहता है कि Instagram देखो या Netflix देखो या गया जाओ or whatever, I don't know.
यार मेरे को तो पसंद है, मतलब आई लव, लाइक आई सेड, आई लव सिनेमा एंड लाइक वेब शोज। तो अच्छी अगर मतलब कोई आती है तो मैं तो देखता हूँ फिर वो, तब चाहे
Nice.
मतलब
Good to hear.
देख कभी कभी तो ऐसा भी होता है कि लाइक संडे को आई स्टार्टेड अ शो, लेट्स से, राइट, एंड आई एम बिंज वॉचर, आई एम नॉट पेशेंट लाइक एक एपिसोड करके 10 दिन देखूंगा, अब नहीं हो पाता मेरे से। तो आई एंड अप वॉचिंग द होल थिंग टिल 5 o'clock in the morning,
Oh shit.
and then I have a 9 o'clock
Oh
meeting in the office.
no. आपकी उम्र क्या है? Like what are you, like 25?
27, just turned
27.
27, just turned
You can do
27.
this for 3 more
Yeah,
years.
I know. I can't do this for long time. but because like I want to do that, I do that. And then so travel is there. I enjoy cooking a lot. It has not been happening for last year, I think, because last year has gotten a bit more hectic than it usually was. But I love cooking. I used to write. I used to write poetry, short stories.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but that like I think 2-3 years I've not.
You mentioned that you are visiting your parents more, and I know what the context is. Do you want to talk about it?
So 2 months earlier, like end of June, 1st July, I was traveling for a meeting from Delhi to Jaipur, and I was in the front seat beside the driver. Halfway crossed, and I was working on my tab for the meeting that I was going for, and suddenly I realized that the car is toppling. So it's rotating like 2 times it did, and for those 10 seconds I felt that my time was off, because what had happened was the car had toppled at 120 speed, because the person who was driving had fallen asleep for a while, and by the time he realized that, he tried to put the brake and turn it around so that we don't get into a like khai, and the car toppled. So suddenly, like, you see this is happening, and then for 10-15 seconds I realized that my time is up. Like, it genuinely felt like that, because it was a very severe accident. I don't know what happened then. God was very kind, I think very grateful for that. The car came to its normal position, came out, realized that my left hand was completely injured, there was blood coming out of the head, and I was scared that something would happen. So immediately ambulance came, went to the hospital, was hospitalized for 5-6 days. But fortunately, no major injuries. Like completely survived, doing as well as I could be. But that 10-second, I think I realized that I had not spent enough time with my parents. I was doing a lot of things for myself, but I was not seeing them enough. And that was the only thing that came to my mind during that 10 seconds. So I think the biggest thing for me was that and I also don't have the luxury to be with them like a lot, because my work is in Chennai, I travel a lot, they are in Gaya. So transport is also not very feasible कि you just take a flight and direct flight है वैसा, so it's not there. So it takes you like 8-10 hours, 12 hours to reach. That was also the challenge. But even the intent was why I was not prioritizing it enough. So I realized that is something that I should definitely do irrespective of what I'm doing. So trying to now spend time with them at least every 4 to 6 weeks.
Nice. Damn cool. As you were saying it, I remembered you say sometime earlier that you were a very impatient person.
Yeah.
And of course, before this accident, but your work also involves working a lot with the government.
Yes.
Which is like requires a PhD in patience, right? So why don't you work us through how do you manage to work with the government? What does it take? And I mean, what drove you to a sector which involves so much government work?
So disclaimer, had I known this when I was starting up, I would not have come into this. Right? नहीं पता था कि ऐसा है. But now that I've come into this, like I said, quit नहीं कर सकता. Like that doesn't work for me. तो अभी करना है उसको फिर.
वैसे ये तो सबको ही कहता है. I mean, I heard this Nvidia boss also give this interview where he said, I didn't know this is going to be so hard.
Honey, but generally, like, hard is different. Hard is like, starting up is hard.
Yeah.
That hard, right?
Yeah.
But here, you don't have any context. Like, कहाँ पर आप देखे हो कि 24 साल का लड़का सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट स्टेट गवर्नमेंट मीटिंग्स में टेंडर्स में बैठा हुआ है. That doesn't happen. We don't have that exposure, यार. Look at the companies that work with government. They're legacy companies. Most of the people are late 40s, early 50s who are there. You don't have a salesperson who is 24-year-old going into government and cracking sales. So that we didn't know. That is what I'm talking about. Like, there have been meetings when I've gone in and they've kicked me out saying that, तुम क्या कर रहे हो यहाँ पर? Like, अभी मैं खुद को देखता हूँ हाँ, अब you see this, it is not an attire of a 27-year-old, right? So I've had to really work on a lot of things to be accepted in government,
Okay.
for them to take me seriously, right? स्टार्टअप में आप टी शर्ट पहन करके जाते हो. आई यूज टू डू दैट फर्स्ट ईयर में. सोलनस का टी शर्ट मतलब होके जाता था ताकि सोलनस का. गवर्नमेंट में डजंट वर्क लाइक दैट, राइट? तो अभी मतलब आई हैड अ रियलाइजेशन ऑल्सो ऑन दिस दैट sometime earlier we had decided to go on a trip with friends, and I realized in my wardrobe I don't have like trending clothes per se. Like I have 90% of the clothes as formals, like with jacket, blazer and things like that I am used to wearing. So that way I think a lot of things have changed for me also. You have to really adapt to the way that government works in terms of dressing, in terms of talking, in terms of what you can say, what you can't say, and things like that. So I carry
What is upside?
upside. I think upside one is if you're interested in personally pushing yourself a lot to see what more you can do, then it's a great upside. I'll tell about other things also, but ये मेरे लिए काफी अच्छा है because I want to see what can I do, right? And my goalpost keeps on shifting. So I'm trying to see now can I actually at this stage win a tender of 10 crores, which is one of the significantly difficult things to do in government. Can I contribute to central government policy making, which we have done, right? So this is one upside. Though you become like you have certain skills which are rare. Like today, I think, and at the risk of bragging about myself, I think I've become very good in managing relationships. Like I can sit with a central ministry, like principal secretary or the chief secretary of a state, and build a rapport. I can do that, and like I have like a lot of them in my personal contact that I can talk to and reach out to. So I think that is a good. The network is a very good upside. Right? So that I think is for a personal level. I think that that I like having. So ये मेरे को अच्छा लगता है because I generally am good with like sort of people and so on. So मेरे को वो लगता है. The other upside is on the business front, which I think अगर crack हो गया ना भाई, मतलब if we are actually able to solve the problem of water contamination or manual scavenging, I can't tell you how content I would be on that. Because I know that it's a very difficult segment, like technology, business, upfront investment, ecosystem is slow. Like कुछ नहीं कर सकते वो यार, मतलब your orders will take 6 months, 7 months of time. सब कुछ सही हो गया, government. I'll give you an example. We have a work with one of the state governments before the elections. Everything was fine. They tested our product. They liked it. They were giving us an order. It came into tender. Election के बाद the government changed. Work went to zero. हमारी क्या गलती है? कुछ नहीं. 6 महीने से काम कर रहे थे उस पर. City level पे. 2 months, 3 months, you make the city commissioner believe that your product is good. Suddenly transfer हो जाता है. Start scratch. So if despite these challenges, if you're able to even to a significant scale solve this problem, I'm not talking about 100%, right? But 10%, 20% अगर solve कर पाते हो, or even if you're able to contribute, I think for me it's a big upside. मतलब खुश रह पाऊंगा जिंदगी में कि यार कुछ तो मतलब बढ़िया गया.
हाँ.
तो वो personal content, हाँ.
I can imagine telling my children or my kid someday that manual scavenging होया करता था, अब मेरे दोस्त के टेक्नोलॉजी ने बंद करवा दिया.
मतलब
बहुत मजा आएगा.
मतलब I think it's मतलब so to take on some of the most difficult problems and contribute to solving them to a certain extent, I think that is a big upside. Like I think it's a privilege that I've gotten a chance to do that. Because, and again, I'm not saying that other things are easier, but I know कि 5 साल 6 साल के बाद अगर लगा कि यार ये नहीं हो पाएगा मेरे से, it's possible, right? I may burn out and things like that. I'll go back to like VC or consulting, learn about that and do it. तो इतना पता है कि वो सीख लूँगा.
Nice. So you studied in Gaya, moved to Delhi for coaching, almost went to Kanpur, but landed up here,
Yes.
started up in your second year in a startup in education, which is now also working with the government.
Yes.
In fourth year, you picked up a tough engineering challenge, somehow made it work. You have 3 product lines which works in water and wastewater management and sanitation. And it's a market that you almost own now, and it's growing.
Hopefully, yeah.
And that both of these companies are government scale companies.
Yes. And COVID was also there.
What?
COVID also came.
Yeah.
Within the time we were starting.
Correct. in
So-
the middle there was COVID. Yeah.
So the Solinas almost went to zero.
Yeah.
So that, but yeah.
Amazing. You are an inspiration, and I cannot tell you how much all of us take in from you, from your story.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.